Hello, and welcome to the first ever episode of Riel Talk Radio, a place where I bring on creative, interesting people to discuss art and life and share some music that we are inspired by. This show is designed to be listened to on the Spotify platform because we will be playing songs through our conversation. However, I will also be posting the interview portion on YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I will leave a link below to a playlist that has all the music we played on the episode. So you'll be able to check it out there. So without further ado, let me begin by introducing the first guest on Riel Talk Radio ever, a close friend and collaborator, Mr. Jared Park, better known as Manrelic, or as his friends call him, Daddy's Fancy Boy.
Hi.
Jared is not only one of my closest friends, but also a talent and personality that leaves a lasting impression on anyone he meets. He's one of the most knowledgeable people about the history of music. He's always dazzling me with some crazy obscure facts about some artist's album, who played on it, what techniques they used. He's a wealth of knowledge, and that's why he is one of my favorite people. He can play the piano, guitar, drums all exceptionally well. He has perfect pitch, son of a bitch, and he's by far the most vivacious person I've ever seen on stage. His live shows are outlandishly phenomenal. He's gained a lot of notoriety in the past few years as a DJ in the Nashville scene. And last but not least, he is an incredible music producer. He really helped me a lot, still does, in my own journey of music production, as well as worked with many Nashville artists around town. So before we get into this, we're going to play one of a classic Manrelic song. So everyone listening, this is Stronger by Manrelic. Why am I not stronger?
Didn't you come up with the joke about erectile dysfunction?
Did I write a joke about erectile dysfunction?
Yeah, with that song, Why Is It Not Stronger?
Probably. That sounds like something I would do, but I don't remember. Anyways, what's up? You like your intro, biatch?
That was good.
Did I forget anything?
Nope.
Nope. Do I have your undivided attention? You seem a little distracted already.
I'm totally concentrating, just making sure that no sounds pop up on my computer.
I can't actually promise the same for me. There's a lot of we actually went over this yesterday. We had like a long I feel like Jared's like me, where I overcomplicate everything, and it's always the simple step. When somebody tries to teach me something and it's extremely complicated, my brain is like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's extremely complicated. But if it's really simple, I'm like, I don't get it. Go back. Like, what do you mean just push a button? That makes no sense to me. So this was our day yesterday, trying to figure out how to record this audio properly. Which it just ended up being as simple as we didn't even need any of the fancy plugins, and we just pushed record. So here we are.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Anyways, shall we start with talking about how we met?
Sure. Yeah.
Cool. We've been friends now since
probably about 5 years now.
I think we met in 2015.
We didn't meet until 2016, until I was living at this specific house that I was living in, and I didn't move into there until 2016.
I remember that specific house.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that cottage style.
Yeah, it was cute.
But not cute.
You were over it by the time I went. So I remember you came to like one of the AWAS shows that I did. I was in a duo called AWAS, which we'll play an AWAS song here in a second. But you came to one of my shows, and then afterwards you came to the after party and we kind of hung out there. But I remember the first time that like we really became friends was when you asked me to do background vocals for one of the Joko shows, a live set. And so we went to Aldi. I think that was the first time I'd been to Aldi, and we bought the $2 bottles of wine, got wasted off cheap ass wine, and we're learning the choreography in your living room, which basically looked like us like sloppily spinning around and singing at the top of our lungs. So that was the night where I was like, yeah, we're probably going to be friends.
I don't think that I kept that wine down that night. So
Did you throw up? You little bitch.
hey, I am not ashamed at
Yeah,
all.
your body's actually pretty wise to know to get rid of that, because it is
It
probably
does.
full of all kinds of chemicals and not good shit. I mean, you
If
don't drink
it's had too
12 wine
much,
and
it's not
save
gonna.
your life.
My body's not gonna tough it out. If I've had too much anything, it's gonna be like, nope, you are going to completely feel the consequences of this. So
If you
grateful.
pay,
I love her.
$2 for wine, you best believe that you're going to make up the difference somewhere else. For sure.
Pedialyte.
Yeah, probably. Ugh. So what do you
That's
remember
$4.
about those times?
We were, I think, a lot different people back then, but I mean, obviously still the same. I didn't really, I think I understand you now just because we've like been in each other's lives for so long, and I've seen, and you probably the same way with me, you've seen like us in so many different situations and like good, the bad, and the ugly. But I definitely didn't know where your head was at. Like after the first time I met you, I was like, I feel like I don't know what she's doing. Like her head is in the clouds. I think she's high as fuck all the time. Like,
wow, really? You've never told me this. Everybody has such an interesting first impression of me. Like every time I ask my friends, it's always like so weird. That's a first one though. I'll take.
Yeah,
that.
you gave me like the stoner surfer girl that like is freakishly good at music vibes, and I was just like, I don't know how I'm going to communicate with this person. And then I think then afterwards, that got squashed and everything that quickly.
I'm trying to remember what my first impression of you was. I think maybe I felt something similar. Like, how am I going to communicate with this guy? I feel like we like talk kind of different languages, and it's funny because we actually really are very different people, but for whatever reason, we get along so well. I think that for whatever reason is our honest communication. And actually Jared and I lived together for about 6 months too, which was a great time. I was thinking about that when I was talking about you playing piano. I remember sometimes like being downstairs and just hearing you I mean, when I say this guy's a multi-instrumentalist, like he can play everything exceptionally. So it was just so peaceful to like hear you just like wailing on that thing. I loved that. That was a fun time. Short-lived, but fun.
Yeah, it was a fun time. And
it
came off as insincere. I'm sorry. I'm just being candid. I'm being candid. I'm sorry.
You got to be candid. It was a good time. There's lessons to be had always. It was great when I was there. So yeah, when we met, Jared was like, were you really producing your own stuff, or were you working with another?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I wasn't sure.
I worked with my friend Kyle Dredden, who's just a whiz at all things production and mixing. But he was the one that was mixing my music, but I was still in the mindset of I'm gonna do everything back then. So yeah, for better or for worse, I bullheadedly bulldozed my way through having 2 songs released around that time. So
okay, yeah, and I was like balls deep into this duo called AWAS. Which is like an electronic sort of, I don't even know how to describe it. It was me, like, actually this was kind of the beginning of me getting into music production too, because it was me and Opie. And he is like a producer, Ableton. He was like running Ableton for what's that country band, like Little Big Town or something, and had done like a shit ton of beats and was just an awesome producer. And I was just coming back to like a hiatus from Nashville after a car accident, and I was really into like Nujabes and kind of those jazz sample flip type beats, which now are everywhere because everyone's like super into the lo-fi kind of shit. But then it was like Erykah Badu was singing on that kind of stuff, and it was like a very niche genre. And when I was recovering from my car accident, I would just get on like DJ Azaskal or like those random things and just top line and do. I like had like 30 songs during that time because I couldn't do anything else.
Wow, so, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so when I met Opie, he was like kind of the same vibe, and so I just like jumped all into this duo with him. Um, and I guess it's a good time to play a song from the AWAS era. So here, which one should I
Please do.
play? I don't know. Well, I'll figure out in post which one I want to play. Probably Seasons. So here it is.
I forgot about that song. That's really good.
You know,
That would be really, really hot on a lot of the like the more R&B focused Spotify playlists,
man, like
Apple Music playlists.
our shit just did not vibe with anybody in Nashville. But what's funny is, so I was always just like, man, is this stuff whack? But I listen back to it every now and then, and I'm like, actually, I still fuck with this. Like, this is still pretty cool. I mean, it's funny to hear my voice. My voice to me sounds so like it rested so much higher. Like now I like I let it hang low, you know. But it's kind of funny because it sounds
like your balls.
Yeah, they hang real
like,
fucking low.
Yeah, like
I just sweep the floor with them. Before I slap you across the face. No.
Teabagging me. Okay.
So yeah, that was our 2016 era. And then yeah, and so I guess it's just kind of cool to see how far we've come really since then. Actually, in order to show that sort of juxtaposition, I have a snippet from a song that we did in I think our first ever session in 2016. And then I'm planning on showing a snippet, maybe a couple snippets from some songs that we did just recently in March. But first, I kind of want to talk a little bit about your production, how you kind of see the art of music production and what inspires you, what your work ethic is like, all of that.
So I would say that I would say that I'm adept at production out of just necessity for my own stuff. I really didn't know anything about production going into like any recordings I've ever done. I had a couple, I had years messing around on GarageBand and Logic, like an earlier version of Logic. And I had produced technically an album for my rock band back in Illinois. But that was just like live instruments, and we tracked everything live and like literally just mixed it in GarageBand, and it sounds like somebody's first foray into production. Mixed, mastered, everything. I didn't know what I was doing, but really proud of it at the time. Moved down here, still playing rock music, got into more moody music. I've always been a huge fan of Bjork, so I would probably attribute.
By the way, here is Nashville.
I
was just letting people know that here is Nashville, Tennessee.
Yes, so here's Nashville. And so I would say that like a big part of my jump into anything electronic based or pop based was Bjork. Tears for Fears. I got into a huge 80s kick when I was into Madonna, Tears for Fears, 80s Talking Heads. And then I had a huge obsession with Prince for a long time and studying his production techniques, and then, Quincy Jones with the MJ stuff. I was just fascinated with synthesizers. So I kind of went down that rabbit hole for a while. And now it's just, like studying Max Martin, studying all the, Ryan Tedder as a songwriter, just studying as many people as I can and kind of taking everything that I can learn and using my weird ass brain to express my own version of it. So
you have a super weird ass brain, and I fucking love it. One of my favorite brains ever. Yeah, and
it's like I love the most inconsistent brain ever, but I like it sometimes.
Well, mine's really consistent always, so can't relate. So that is something that I really love about you, is your knowledge of music. Like, dude, that I posted the other day. What is his last name? Frick, I'm forgetting. Carl's Weisenhausen, whatever, like one of the first.
Stockhausen.
Carl Stockhausen.
The music concrete stuff. Yeah.
Dude, all of it. I was on a kick for a minute where I was like going to bed listening to this because I just was so, especially for it to be like the first examples of sampling, it just blew my mind. And just the way that the stuff sits in the mix, like how they achieve all these sounds and how it was really like blowing my mind. And I posted something about it and I had so many people be like, I mean, I had like one or two being like, oh, this is dope. And like, most people are like, this sounds like shit. What the fuck? And then of course you were like, oh yes, Carl Stockhausen, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that is why I love this guy. And
I studied music concrete back in a class in college. I was a non-music major. Or a music non-major, but I took every music class that was available to non-majors.
I did the same thing. We've never talked about this. I did the exact same shit.
Didn't you have a communications major?
Yeah, and I have a master's too. Oh, yeah, of course. See, yeah, I think that's like the attitude when you are going to school, but you don't really want to be there. You know, you think like, okay, I got to get this degree because, like, you know,
my daddy wants it. My dad wants it.
Exactly. My parents would love for me to be a normal functioning person in the real world. And then you realize that like, that's just not on the radar for us. So
yeah. I mean, like when it's your dad's just like main goal in life to pay for college, it's just like, all right, well, I guess I'll do this. I'm going to be grateful
really?
and make yeah. I mean, like he saved his whole professional life. So I could go to college like years before I was even born. He didn't even know I was going to be a thing until he had already saved a bunch of money for it. No, he's one of the most selfless humans I've ever met. And it took us a long time to like understand each other and kind of get to the point where we're speaking the same language. But I have the utmost or in the words of Nick Miller from New Girl, utmost respect for my father.
I love
he's
that.
amazing.
I feel the same way about my parents, and I think learning to accept your parents for the people they are and kind of like divorce in your mind this idea of them being your parents and just being people and realizing how much they sacrificed for you, like it's you can't have anything else but respect for them, you know. And
absolutely
I'm really happy I'm there with mine. That being said, they did not pay for my college, but they put so much pressure on me to still attend. So I had to like just get through all of that, and I will just be having to deal with those student loans for probably my next couple lifetimes, but it's okay.
Well, I think that like one thing is that's to be said is like he sacrificed so much so he could do that. Like he used the same amp for the first 20 years of my life, barely ever got a new guitar. Like he had 2 or 3 guitars, one of them being like a $300 Ibanez. And he is a monster player. I mean, he deserves the best equipment, and he has gone on to like really treat himself and like get everything he wants. And, you know, my family's comfortable, but like he really, I mean, him and my mom really went out of their way to make me comfortable, and I'll never take that for granted. I mean, not a lot of families can do that, and I understand that. And that's just what I was born into, is like, you know, he was the classic, you know, dad that grew up in the 50s that was like, I'm going to pay for my child's education. That is like the best thing I can do. And, you know, he did it. He suffered through it too. I mean, like he was a starving musician and everything, and just like he got to the point where it just like wasn't worth it, and which is, you know, sane, I think, clinically probably sane compared to the rest of us who are still just like, no, it's going to be different. Like the 30th time that we go starving or are broke and pissed off at everything.
You know what my thing is always, because I've been in enough situations at this point to know what it's like to make like good money doing things that you don't really like doing. That sounded weird, like professional things. But so I know I have that option, and it doesn't fulfill me. Like to make a bunch of money off something that just doesn't fulfill me makes me feel worse than how I would feel if I, had to figure out my finances because I just stubbornly only wanted to make them off something that wasn't making me money at the time.
Yeah.
So that's all my kind of driving factor. But, that being said,
our priorities are different. I think people our age, like our priorities are different. And it took a long time for my dad and I to kind of see each other's point of view. Or I mean, like more so him, because I was raised by that point of view. And then, you enter the real world and you're like, no, that's not real. You live in like our hometown, which is like a small town. Like I live in a big city now, and I understand like it's different. You got to admit this, you got to listen to me. So that's been a huge learning experience for both of us, and talking that over, parent shit.
Yeah, I remember it was really hard for my parents to kind of accept the lifestyle that was unfolding for me. And the only thing I can ever be in any situation is unabashedly myself, because I kind of maybe I'm a little bit too much myself at times, because I like to just put it all out there so that people don't waste their time. I'm either for you or not for you. And with my parents, it was kind of a long stretch where it seemed to be like, oh God, like, well, their whole thing always when I was younger was like, let's just keep her alive till she's 18. That's what they always say. And then once I
never heard that. That's what they always say. I didn't know that's what they always say. That's
what they always say, Jared. And so they succeeded in that, but I actually moved out of the house when I was 17. And then I kind of just like needed to find my own way. And I remember like really butting heads with them for a long time, and then realizing that, it all came down to just what we said, like just showing them respect. And when I did that fully, they also did it for me, and realized like, I'm just like a person that's trying to figure out exactly how they want to live their life. And like, I like to live my life pretty poetically, or through art and creating, and through my relationships and my experiences. Those are the things that are really important to me. And I'm really fortunate to be able to be doing music full time, and to, have been for the past few years. And I just realized like kind of what matters to me. And I'm never going to be that kind of person to like collect wealth. I'm not like, I'm smart about it, and I want to like get to certain goals, but like my goals have never been to be like a billionaire or something like that. Like I always wonder like why hold on to all of that? Like, what are you actually doing? Like, what are you contributing? Like, you're just going around and collecting things for yourself. Like, I don't know, that doesn't sit well with me. But
I mean, it's hard to justify that mindset to a lot of the wealth out there, because they're like, well, I have all this money, and like you're telling me I need to give it away.
I was around so much of that in Houston. I feel like to me, like, because when I was in Houston, I was working for, this, I'm just saying it in general. I was working for an agency where I was just doing residency gigs, like performing live, and then I was writing during the day. And so I was around like the oil population, a lot of people from Middle East or wherever else who just have insane amounts of money. And that was my clientele that I was around all the time. And that was a big one for me to be like, these people suck. And also they're so unhappy. That was the main thing. Like, these people are so.
And let's clarify. We're talking about the wealthy people, not people from the Middle East.
Oh,
just for the sake of just to clarify to anybody listening or watching, we were talking about rich people.
There were also many from Texas and like real Southern people. I'm just saying like the kind of person that's usually involved in oil, like whatever, the oil industry. And there's two different types of very wealthy people from what I've seen in my own experience. And one of them are the ones where their wealth is a byproduct of their passion and actually wanting to, use their skills and talents to make a difference or an impact or help people positively. And those people are the best kind of people to be around. And this is all my experience, of course, like very generous, very fun, very open people. And then I have the ones that their mission is collecting money. It's all about the paper chasing. It's not a byproduct of anything. It's what can we do to make the most money? What corners can we cut? Whatever. Who can we, bend over to make the most money? And those people, like, they're just stuck in this loop that they don't seem to understand that, then that brand new car, that feeling, it goes away, that super expensive whatever, it goes away. And then you just got to buy the new one because that goes away. And all these people that have, partners, and then they come in with just like random people all the time, and they dishonor their commitments. They are dishonorable people. And it's because they're so unhappy because they haven't realized that it's that all that stuff, that feeling of like that status and money that you're trying to chase, and it's not a real thing, and it evaporates so quickly that your life is chasing that feeling that doesn't exist.
Well, and it's, there's a lot of things about, there's a median of happiness around like, I think $60,000. It'll probably change with whatever inflation decides to do. But, like when you're under $60,000 to, a certain degree, like in maybe a multiplying or an exponential way, you are struggling to figure out how to get the money to live and have a livelihood. Anything over 60 or 80,000 or whatever that number is, you're stressed out because you don't know what to do with it. And when I do have an excess of money, it burns a hole in my pocket. And then I kind of like look around one day and I'm like, wow, I don't think I ever want to buy that again. Like it's just random stuff from Amazon, and I'm guilty of the Amazon
so
stuff.
Interesting that this is a big reason why I decided to just like, I was like, it means so much more to me to be making my money off of things that really like fulfill me, because I at a certain point, like when I was making above that amount, I felt that exact way. And it was kind of like, oh, it was such a shallow feeling where I was like, this doesn't mean anything to me. Oh, that's an extra $100, whatever, like whatever. And it just didn't matter. And so that's very interesting. And we're probably going to get like flagged for being socialists or something now.
First of all, like democratic socialism is not a crime, and it's not the Red Scare. And just these basic human rights, even like a universal income. Nobody's asking for like the free handout to be like millions of dollars per year. It's literally just saying like, okay, as long as you are a mouth to feed, we have the ability to feed you. And a lot of this goes down to generational wealth too. It's like why Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg, like they're just like, I don't really know much about their past, but they're self-made. I mean, if we're talking like generational wealth, there's some like oil money, there's some automotive money, there's some like really crazy money in this country because of generational wealth. And that it is one of the most important aspects.
You're living right next to it. You're living next to that railroad money wealth. Vanderbilt's over there.
Yes, and that's where the infrastructural racism comes in, because when the government goes in and strips Black people of or any type of brown person, any person of color goes in and strips them through the system, there's just so many opportunities that white people have that they don't understand is a privilege, like generational wealth. It's the same. It was like so much, and
literally stripped.
There's been so like in the case of Kansas City, Black Wall Street, in the case of so many towns in America that were Black people were forced out and underpaid for their land and their establishment, and then like this is a thing, like to create lakes. Either they would be forced out or be paid undercut to get out. It's kind of like similar what happened to East Nashville, but they would make man-made lakes, and it's really, I mean, that's pretty much analogous to like a manifest destiny kind of thing, where it's like, okay, I don't care what you're doing right here and what kind of progress and what kind of culture you've created, but it's our like right to go in and take it from you. And that's the kind of stuff that's ties into infrastructural racism, is because we see all these like generationally wealthy people passing that down over and over and over and over again. And we don't see that happening with many Black families. And that's because of that. And like, that's one of the first things I point to when people don't understand racism. I'm just like,
and it's exactly what you said too, with the generational wealth. I mean, that began when, like, back to when both Black and white people were slaves. And when they became free, that's when it began, is because they gave, well, I mean, there's many reasons, but they gave, if you were a white slave and you were freed, then you got a weapon and land, and you were given something after, and Black people were not. And so you talk about that generation.
Oh yeah, and Black people never got reparations. Landowner or slave owners that had slaves after the Civil War got reparations.
This is the biggest issue, though, is that people are so comfortable in their worlds. Learning things like that and really understanding and understanding the history of why we are here is so crucial for us to stop like making these same mistakes and to live in harmony and all those things that we hopefully all are working towards doing, but that's the problem. Is I see these people and they don't care, and they don't care to know, because it's uncomfortable. And like, it's very safe to say that it's a lack of empathy. Like, these people are, you just assume like they just don't give a shit about anybody but themselves. But a lot of times, like, it's deeper than that. And that's what I've learned a lot the past couple of years. I've met people who are, they don't even realize how unaware they are of the situation that's actually going on. And I think it's because it takes a lot of energy to really dive into that and to understand how fucked up it is.
Absolutely. I mean, I know that all the changes that I've made in my life have been uncomfortable, and then telling other people about it. I mean, this has been a huge realization for me recently, is, I will never judge an alcoholic or a drug addict again, because obviously if somebody's struggling with an addiction, they're trying to cover up something that they don't want to deal with. It doesn't help that whatever substance they're doing is chemically addictive. But, if you see someone drinking their ass off, like, chances are they're going through something. And I never want to judge anybody for that again. I've been there. I wouldn't consider myself an alcoholic at any point in my life, but I would say that I've definitely used alcohol to cover stuff up. And it wasn't until I found the right therapist that I was like, there's actually a healthy way of doing this. And we all have these small, fragile, like timid little children inside of us that are still manning half of the controls of an adult's life, and we need that to change. And I think that stems out into so many people that it's arrested development, and they refuse to grow up because it's uncomfortable, and they just don't even know, like, it's changing more with therapy being more popular and more common.
Mental health is such a more big focus, which makes me so happy, because that's
when I'm tired, or when I'm malnourished or something like that, tired, malnourished,
too much caffeine,
my brain
yesterday
was reality again today.
Okay.
My brain goes into, the parasympathetic mode, but I also feel myself becoming more hateful, resentful, hateful and resentful. My mind starts going towards like, like hateful thoughts towards somebody that wronged me, or that I perceived as wronging me, and stuff like that. And I just think that so many people aren't willing to think critically, or they just don't want to put in that hard work to change. And that's really what it takes, is like, just, changing and learning and listening. Because, even with pronouns and everything, I'm never going to correct anybody really, except people I'm close to. And that's just to kind of
pronouns.
Poke them a little bit.
This is a good opportunity to tell us your pronouns now, if you'd like.
I identify as they, them. But, I could also say that the further I get into it, I might also be gender, or not gender fluid. Gender fluid. Yeah. have different moods, I have different expressions, and like I've never felt like I have aligned with the male or female narrative completely, you know.
Mhm.
Sometimes I don't feel like I'm on the binary. Sometimes I do. The last few days I've felt particularly more masculine, and I've noticed that, and I'm like, okay. But that's for me, it's more kind of just like a personal thing where it's like, oh, I've noticed this about myself, and this is how okay, so I'm going to, this is, you know, use this clarity today, and just that's how I'm going to express myself. It doesn't really have to do with anybody else, and it never should. And the thing is that people, it takes work to admit, like, I'm sorry I misgendered you. Not even to me, I'm just saying in general. It takes work to say, you know what, you're right, I'm sorry I misgendered you, I did not know, I will do better,
Yeah.
I will try harder. Because that's what anybody, that's all anybody wants. It's like an effort.
Mhm.
Nobody's gonna, you can't expect anybody to get it right the first time. But it's mainly just kind of just flipping the script and seeing, like, you know, how far we can get it going in, you know, in a different direction here.
I'm pretty positive about the progress that we have made, though. I will say that. I know we have
We've
leaps
come
and
a long way.
bounds, but we really have. And
We've come a long way.
I definitely want to like keep it in our because Jared and I can go down so many rabbit holes. We could talk forever about everything, and we quite often do. But let's go back to the music element of things. I feel like it would be a good time to switch gears and go back into maybe a demonstration of our journey through production and our own collaboration. So before I play a clip of a song that we worked together on the first session we did in 2016, I figured I would play some of the musical influences at the time. So for me, I was really into the director Nicholas Winding Refn. I'm probably saying that wrong, but any of his films that he did, you know, Only God Forgives, Drive was the one that I had been watching like right before I think this, and I usually don't rewatch movies, honestly, so this shows how much I love that movie. And the song Night Call by Kavinsky was stuck in my head. So you remember?
Is that is that where that song kind of blew up, is Drive?
You know, I think it also was featured on a different film, but I'm sure that had to be it because Ryan Gosling is in Drive. And so, you know, it was a
Well,
massive.
yeah, I just, you know, I think that song came out before 2016 or whatever, before Drive came out.
Right.
And I think maybe that was
I think it was like, actually,
the apex for it.
It was a few years before that for sure. Yeah, I had just given it a rewatch. But so that was one of the songs, and we'll go ahead and play that one now.
Right.
Yeah, and then your song, actually, I asked you what it was the other day, and you told me it was this song called Tough Love by Jessie Ware.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I actually don't know if maybe you showed it to me when we were in this session. I don't recall, but this song, I didn't hear it, or I didn't recognize it. And then as soon as I put it on, when I was making this playlist, I was like, oh yeah, these drums, like the sound of the drums and the kind of delay on it sounds so much like I can hear the inspiration in our session. So we'll go ahead and play that one now. Okay. So, now that you hear that, I'm going to play not the whole thing, but I'll play maybe through the first chorus of a song that Jared and I wrote the first session that we ever did together, and it's called Simple Intentions.
A certain flavor, I can tell it ain't my taste. You're just a number in my cell phone that I keep without a name. last part of night, all alone, all alone. And the only path I knew to take by heart was to your home, your home. Baby, I'm global, you're just a local. These are but simple intentions. Baby, I'm global, you're just a local.
What do we rate that song now? Are you still into it or
6.5.
6.5? That's generous. I mean, I think the pre-chorus.
Okay, 5.5.
I think the pre-chorus.
Negative 69.
but I
Negative
still-
420.
I still negative 420. But I still do actually really like the I like the and of course I love the production of it. I think we really like our inspirations show like really shone through. Yeah, and I like the chorus too. I mean, maybe we could redo it. I think I've said that before.
I like the chorus. I think the rest of the song I'm not really sold on anymore, but I definitely like the chorus a lot.
Maybe one of these days we'll redo it. So anyways, that was 2016 Ariel and Jared collaboration. And so now I'll show you guys a little snippet of fast forward to 5 years later, I suppose. Probably about just 5 years later. I'm pretty sure our first session that we did together was like in March, because I remember it being shortly before your birthday or around your birthday.
Probably 4 years later then, because it was like 2017.
Oh, no, it's 2016 that we did that.
2016?
Yeah, I think we met.
No.
We met in winter, and then that happened in spring of 2016.
It couldn't have been because I was still
You're right. You're right. We met in the winter.
Bennett's house.
We met into winter of 2016, and then that was 2017. Okay.
Yep.
So 4 years. So yeah.
I had already been playing Manrelic shows by then, and by the time we were working on stuff,
Right.
and we had done that demo in my room at Brandon's house. So yeah.
So that's an old demo of ours from 2016, and yeah. So then we'll get into what some of the inspirations we were listening to. I'll play a snippet of this session just based on what we're listening to, because I remember you were like, oh, play this song Inside. Is it just Inside, right? By Steve Lacy?
N dash
Inside. And inside, tell me, baby, is it? Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and jam that out now. All right.
Perfect.
So when I added this to the playlist, I actually realized that I could hear the inspiration for one of the tracks that we did. This was actually a session I came to visit in March, and Jared and I just like stayed. There was like a tornado during this time. Remember? So
Oh, wow. And I thought that my car got like,
yeah, because we were
flooded.
basically driving through a flood. So I stayed at Jared's for a few days, and we just worked on a bunch of stuff. And so I'm going to play a little session from one of the songs we did during this time, where I feel like you can definitely hear the inspiration from this Inside Out song at the beginning. But just as a disclaimer, the song is as demo as it gets. So there doesn't even have lyrics yet. So I don't know how much I'm going to play, but it's still pretty vibey.
oh, it's this song.
We'll listen
Okay.
to it. It's called working title, Pandies.
Give me all your loving, and let me till you dig me down. I said, and give me all your loving, and give me a squeeze till you breathe.
that's definitely on my list of things to do, to write some real lyrics to it, because I like it. It's funky. And so then the second song that we made, I think we made a couple during this time actually, but this is the one that we produced all the way. So I'll give you guys a little snippet of this. It has no real musical inspiration, just, you know,
It does.
it has my real life inspiration, I guess.
It had some musical inspiration for me. I cannot name it because it's pretty much a direct ripoff on accident. But if any of y'all want to clock me, then whatever.
I don't recall this.
But
I don't recall listening to anything. Maybe because I was so in my feels. Like this was one of those ones that where like, you know, I actually was writing a song because I needed to express myself, which happens like probably like
I remember
6 out of the 10 times that I write. Well, maybe less, maybe half the time, honestly. Sometimes I just write to like write, but this time in particular, I like needed to write this. I was like in my feels.
You did. You were processing.
Yeah, I was. So anyways, the song, this is a snippet from a song we wrote called Another Life.
It's like I had a cork stuck in me. Ooh, and every time I tried to speak, I lost the ability. Your mind's playing tricks on me. I don't like it, baby.
Dig this song.
You just had to play draft one, didn't you? All of my DJ cutting and stuff, that version, you hated that.
No, because this always happens when we write. Like I'm sitting there, I'm like with you, and then I leave and you get in the flow, which I love about you, but you start like remixing the song. Like every hour you're like remixing and adding new things, and it sounds like an entirely different song. Like that's cool sometimes, but also like I just need to be there for it. That's why I'm like, okay, like yeah, but like because when I'm there, I'm like, okay, maybe we could do this, but maybe we could also keep it like this or go this way or
well maybe it's time for you to budget a monthly plane ticket to Nashville.
Yeah, well,
if that's the way you want to play it.
That is the way I want to play it, and I'm gonna play it like that real soon. Not on monthly, maybe. I don't know about monthly, but it is. Nashville has just been sucking me back in more and more. I think I'm gonna be up there.
It's changing.
I'm gonna be up there for an extended amount of time in the fall, so we'll get lots done there, and I'm excited.
Apart from the dating scene here, I'm actually pretty happy with Nashville right now. So.
Yeah, the dating scene is never, this is a great segue actually for us to, I'm going to wrap this one up real quick though, because I really did love writing that song with you. And I love that we're such good enough friends that I could like tell you what was going on. And you're always like this place where I can be vulnerable and talk about it and then write about it. And then such a cool memory because we went to Gray's and we got
right. That's what we got. Okay.
Yeah. And then when we were driving back, it was like, we were like, are we going to die? It was like lightning and
hail
was flooded. Oh yeah. It was hailing. There were trees in the middle of the streets. Yeah. It was pretty intense. So, Nashville's been through it, man. But
yeah, that was almost a year to the day of the tornado.
It's a great segue though, because I did want to ask you, what's your experience of being a musician in Nashville? Give us all the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever.
A lot of the same experiences as other people and a lot of not similar to other people.
In what ways?
I would say that a lot of people, from what I observe, a lot of people moved to the city for work, which I didn't really. I moved here to I was in a band and we had grandiose, dreams. So I would say that people who move here for a couple of reasons. One is to become a blue collar musician. Like that's truly like a working class musician. Like I want to go play a gig where I'm compensated for per gig with a per diem. And it doesn't matter really who I play for. Here's my talent. Like I can offer you this. And then there's also some people that move here to be artists. I don't think that was the case for a long time in Nashville because it was such an industry town. I think a lot of artists are trying to move here. We'll see what happens. I think like the flight from LA and New York from COVID is probably still in effect, and everybody's solidifying their place in Nashville now that things are like reopening. But a lot of people just move here to be a part of a lifestyle, and it's really centered around drinking. It's really centered around partying and socializing. And it doesn't feel like it has much substance. That being said, I feel like things are changing. I am seeing a lot more different opinions, different points of view coming in, and different types of music. I think it is still, first of all, a good old boys club, and I think that it's still a male-dominated industry and a very male-dominated town as far as like who is the wealthy in this town, and a very white country town. But I mean, I have to give kudos. I have to, give my kudos to like special shout out to Tyler Martinez. He puts on the Housequake series. He's a really good friend of mine, and he's been a freaking scammer with pop music for the last like 4 or 5 years, and he's been doing a lot of great things. He just started the a drag show series at Mercy that I DJ monthly, and that's really great. I think people are just starting to like spread their wings here in Nashville again, and just be different.
Like link all of that stuff to all the shows that you're doing too, so that people can go and check you out.
Oh yeah. So I mean, like that's my goal in 2021.
I love your perspective about how it definitely was like a session musician town. I think that Nashville is very interestingly, it has a prime location. A lot of tour bus companies are actually based out of Nashville because it's really easy to kind of start a tour out of there. And
it's very equidistant from a lot of big cities. A lot of hubs. It's the hub. So
yeah, Chicago, New Orleans isn't too far away. You have Birmingham right there.
Atlanta.
New York is pretty close. Like, yeah, Atlanta, right, 3 hours.
Charlotte.
Yeah, so it's a really popular destination. I guess I was from the side of going there completely for the arts. I was fresh out of college. I actually graduated college a couple years early, and I was like super green and just wanting to get my experience. So I just moved there and just did the thing. And I feel like I understand exactly what you're saying, where it lacks substance, but I think it's sadly it's the environment that's bred by the fact that, people just don't take care of the artists there at all. I mean, you don't get paid, it's always so cutthroat, and it really sucks because it creates a community that's very hostile. Like I remember really struggling with that. I could never. Nice, good opportunity to put those on for all the Spotify listeners. Jared just covered half his face with a pair of sunglasses. And I remember that being really hard for me because I wanted to kind of build like a community of artists. That's always my mission, and it was really difficult in Nashville because people just treated me like I was in their way. So I don't know what the overall conception of Nashville is now. I think I never really thought of it as a country place when I was there because I was never around any country artists, but I think a lot of people might still think Nashville is pretty country, and that is just not the case. It is, I would say, songwriter.
That's where the wealth is at. Again, I'll say that. That's where the Christian music.
Yeah, because that's the backbone of it. But like if you're an artist trying to cut your teeth in town, the chances of you being a country artist are pretty. I mean, it exists, but it's much more likely that you're a songwriter. It's I was thrown in so many, like when I was super young, just like songwriting sessions. That's all the people do there. But yeah, it was really difficult for me because I would like go up to these people and, or be at these parties and be like, oh, hey, and they would introduce themselves to me. And I'd be like, yeah, I've met you, we've shared a bill, and also you watch all my Instagram stories. So so that sucks, because that's always kind of the undercurrent for me. Obviously, I found my niche. Like, you and I have been great friends forever, and like, or not forever, but long enough to be good friends. And yeah, I just met, yeah, I have like a small group there, but it's kind of unfortunate. I guess you could probably experience that in any of the music based cities, though. I'm sure it's really hard to um establish value as an artist in any medium. So, but
I would say that at this point, I don't really like putting that energy out anymore, because I've done that for about a decade now, and it wasn't until I really kind of leaned in and said I want to be the change that I want to see in this city that I actually started feeling results.
That's such a
I
good
started seeing things change. So when I stopped having that kind of like, well, they just don't understand me, blah blah blah. It's just like everybody's just doing them. The most you can hope for is they'll stay out of your way, and that we'll all kind of like still give each other nods when we actually do like something that someone else does. Like, I just don't like country music, but there's a handful of country artists in town where I'm just like, I don't actively listen to your music, but when I see you perform, like, oh, you're amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I will.
Good music transcends any genre for sure. And that's
Absolutely.
a really good point. I think that that's important for me to realize too, because I think I was still pretty immature when I was living there. And a lot of it is exactly what you say. It is a mentality thing. If you kind of feel that way, I mean, that's going to exist. Those people are going to exist. But if you feel like everyone is that way, that's all you're going to interact with. Because yeah, once I kind of removed myself from that and wiped my mentality fresh and started over, I was able to like really, like, now, I mean, yeah, one of my closest community is still in Nashville, and it's funny because I met a lot of them after I moved away, just these brilliantly creative people that have brought so much inspiration into my life. So you're absolutely right. It's a really good point to make, for sure.
Well, and it is used for so many other parts of the industry. Like, it is a good hub town. It's still relatively cheap to live here, like compared to New York or LA. And my goal for this year is to branch out to other cities. I want to keep my home base here because I've got a great living situation, the best one I've ever had, and I never want to let this go. It's just a really great setup for me. But as far as like just DJing in town every weekend again for the rest of the year in my life, like, no, I'm already going in like, Google Maps and saving, like doing some like bar hunting and in New York and Chicago, and kind of compiling lists of different places I can, send my stats or my whatever EPK, electronic press kit, to, and trying to branch out into other cities. You can have a life outside of Nashville, but a lot of people get so insulated here, and I think one thing about blowing up in Nashville is that they're just like, oh yeah, I've made it. And then you don't really become a national or international act. There's only a handful of exceptions to that rule. Maren Morris got picked out, Casey Musgraves got picked out. They transcended. But most of the time, a lot of the people in Nashville that get big kind of either fizzle out or just break up or just stop making music, because you can only be so in a town that doesn't support its infrastructure in a sustainable way. Like, you can't get big and support yourself unless you're a freaking DJ, which is why I'm a DJ, because we actually get paid to do that, and I happen to really enjoy doing it. So I have my hourly rate. They don't mess with me, and they kind of just let me do what I want to do. So
I'm really proud of you finding your niche, and you have endless skills that you can capitalize on. And, it's just the beginning of your career, and you will only continue to do that because you have so much to offer. And as your friend, I love seeing you finally like pull, I mean, you have been, but just like how they're all coming together so seamlessly, and watching it really be your time and shine, just like, you know, I get
mean, like,
that.
look at you though right now. You're making music and finally putting out that record that you've been soul searching for as long as I've known you. You've been soul searching for this record, and you're making it happen right now.
Thanks, babe. It's true.
And you're not even in Nashville or in a major hub.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna disclose where you're at, but you know,
I'm in transit always. So yeah, but
you're always in transit, and you're
thanks for trying to
doing
protect
it.
my identity. I'm in the armpit of the United States. So
no, I don't think you're in Illinois.
Yeah. Oh, is that it? Well, listen, if you want to get some gigs in Chicago, you let me know. I'm always down to meet you there. I love me some Chicago.
I did not know that. That's I love Chicago so much. And it's funny that I've been to a lot of the places that I've been recommended, and I've been like, oh yeah, I've been there. I've danced there before. Yeah.
One of
and
my
I've been
favorite
looking
US
at like
cities by far is Chicago. I just love that city. It's like always so clean. The people are so cool. The music history is phenomenal. There's always something to do. It's got so much.
not the South Side, unfortunately.
What?
It's just like Chicago, it's a very like a racist city in the sense that like it's so segregated. It's still like the South Side is so segregated, and that it's just like impoverished, and they don't call it Chirac for no reason.
Yeah, it's true.
But it's getting better. It just seems like every mayor that Chicago has is some kind of corrupt, like Mayor Daley, Blagojevich. I don't know if you remember the whole Rod Blagojevich thing going down. He went to prison, and then Trump pardoned him.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He got out, and apparently he's working on some pyramid scheme now or some pipe dream.
Yeah.
But yeah, Chicago has not had a non-corrupt mayor in like maybe a century. But it's just
any major city that or any politician that isn't corrupt. But that's another story for another time.
I love Chicago though.
I love Chicago as well. But to wrap up our talk about Nashville, I wanted to kind of include some songs in here to spotlight some Nashville artists. I thought about some of the artists that I really love, but a lot of them have moved, so I technically can't count them. So I'm gonna play a song.
Were you gonna play Eberly?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but
Caitlin,
she'll have her own I'll have a little episode with her, my girl Everly now. She's Everly, goes by Everly. So I calm down.
I am cool. I am so cool right now.
I can't tell, you got freaking windshield wipers on your face. So I'm going to include a song by an old friend of mine who's a badass producer. Her name is Sinclair, and I've always been a fan of her musically. This girl has been like freaking slaying classic guitar since she was 5. She is so knowledgeable, one of like the most incredibly talented musicians, and her productions are also amazing, and her songwriting. So this is one of my favorite ones by her. It's called Barcelona. Okay. And Jared, you had a Nashville artist that you wanted to spotlight. So I went ahead and threw her song up in this playlist too. Why don't you tell us why you chose her?
So from the very first time that I saw her perform, I was like, this human is going to do great things. I don't know when, I don't know how, but this is it was like an emotional experience. And I wish they believed it about themselves more. So it's my good friend Olivia Jones. She not only writes her own music, but she produces it too. She's her own producer, and like especially in the sense that she is connecting all the different parts, like in the traditional sense of a producer, where she's sending out her song to a drummer, strings, being like, no, okay, here's the part, here's the MIDI or the sheet music, like do this, and then add your little flair to it. She's brilliant. And she's just now getting back into songwriting. She has her own vintage shop called Antiquated Vintage. And I've got a couple of pieces from her. But she is a freak. And I can't wait for our collaborative future, and also just for her to kind of like respread her wings into the world, and like really, you know, pedal to the metal in 2021. So
an artist's journey. It's so funny because a lot of people don't, unless you're really in it, you don't understand how much energy it really takes to do that.
Yeah.
You know, the creating is the easy part. The rest of it is the real spiritual work, in my opinion. Well, I love how highly you speak of her. So this is Olivia Jones, Make Me Cry. I'd never heard that song before, but I love it. I think that is kind of the way that I want Nashville sound to be recognized by. She's awesome. Love her. Thanks for including her on here and giving her such a warm shout out. Last person that I wanted to include is also another producer. I don't really know this guy super well, to be honest. We're more acquaintances. Our paths have just crossed a few times, but I'm always following what he does, and I've always been a fan of his production. And when Nashville was really just starting to kind of get a community of pop people, he was like the person that I always thought of. So we're going to include this song. The producer's name is John Santana, and he's based in Nashville. So this is a song by him. All right. So that concludes the first ever episode of Riel Talk Radio. Jared, thank you so much for being my first guest. You were amazing as usual. I'm so lucky to have your creativity and your friendship in my life. So thank you for honoring me with your presence. Maybe I'll have you on another one of these days when we have more to talk about.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me. And might I say, you are a wonderful, wonderful moderator / host.
Oh, thanks.
You did a great job. And this is, I'm excited to hear more episodes. This is going to be great.
Well, thanks for being a part of it. We'll see how this goes. I think my goal right now is to do one bi-weekly. And then move to weekly. I would like to say like do it every week, but I know myself and I'm like, I have to ease into commitment slowly for it to actually last a long time. I found that that's true with anything. So we're trying that with this as well. But even if it's just one episode, it's a great episode. Thanks for being a part of it. I love you dearly.
You know what? I love you too. You're the best.
You're the best. Talk to you soon. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.